Have you ever sensed that reality is more than what we can see or touch? What if there's a hidden layer of energy connecting everything around us, waiting to be explored? Today's guest, Ken, isn't just curious about these questions, he's diving headfirst into them. As an apprentice in energy work and a seeker of the path of enlightenment, he's learning to harness the unseen forces that shape our lives. But what does it mean to truly awaken to this power? Could understanding energy help us unlock parts of ourselves we never knew existed? Join us as we go beyond the frequency, because some truths are meant to be felt, not just seen. This conversation may just be the spark you need to start your own journey. And with that being said, Ken, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. And let's just dive right into it. First, Ken, why don't you just kind of do a quick introduction of yourself, for those that don't already know who you are, and also how can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm known as Energy Apprentice Ken on YouTube and Facebook. I'm an energy practitioner. I've been practicing energy work for about a decade now. I have my own podcast. Well, not much of a podcast, nothing sophisticated like Cesar's, but I just have a YouTube channel where I interview a lot of very interesting people that do energy work and stuff. And when I do energy work, we're not talking like stuff like Reiki, like basic stuff. We're talking people that move objects with their minds, see blindfolded, do remote viewing. Some people even claim to do some really wild stuff like teleporting and levitating and stuff like that. So to my knowledge, I am probably the only person who specializes in the interview and people who do telekinesis, and the majority of people on my podcast do telekinesis. So I'm known as a telekinetic, and I'm known as a telekinesis interviewer. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just a regular guy though, really. I mean, I'm no one special. I work at a pizza store still, and I don't know, I'm nothing special at all. Just an average guy, but just have some really weird interests, I guess. So
Awesome. Ken, look, let me just add a couple of things here. You are not just a regular guy. You are, from what I've seen on your YouTube channel and following your Facebook, you can do some pretty incredible things that I know that everybody innately has these abilities, but you've actually taken the time to actually hone these abilities and these skills. You've put in the work. You've done your research, and that is something that makes you special in my book. All right. And I've seen some of your demonstrations online, and I tell you what, I'm not the only one following. As you know, there's a lot of people that are very interested in your path, where you're heading to, and whatever your goals are. So let me ask you that question. What is your goal?
So my goals have radically changed over the years. Initially I wanted to just become like Jedi. I wanted to become like a superhero pretty much, but as I matured, as I got older and stuff, my goals have like radically changed. Now I'm like seeking more of a pure, sacred path. I'm currently a student of a school that specializes in pretty much what is known as a yin path. Some call it the water path. It's a very sacred, calm path. It's not like all about projecting energy and doing all this wild stuff that I used to do. I'm going down more of a sacred path because I realized that that's far more important. And it's a disappointment for some of my audiences, who was expecting me to really focus on the supernatural abilities and things like that. But I plan on going in a much more sacred route because I realize that's just far more important for me. And yeah, that's just far more important. And there's just, yeah, I'm looking for a pure connection with source and quote unquote God. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to doing in the future. So
I appreciate you explaining that, Ken. And let's go a little bit further back here for the audience before you got into any of this, right? Who were you? Let's talk about that.
sure. Yeah, so I was born in Japan. My parents, well, not my parents, but my dad was in the Air Force, so I grew up in Japan. I moved to America when I was 15. I'm almost 35 years old. So yeah, so I pretty much been in America for 2 decades, roughly, and just working, regular jobs and stuff, went to college a little bit. I used to do like, mixed martial arts. I wrestled in college a little bit. I wasn't like great or anything, but it was just I'm still like a big martial arts guy. I'm a martial arts fan. I currently box and stuff on the side just as a hobby. I just, I love martial arts. So I was pretty much a martial artist. So in a way, this energy work was kind of an extension of martial arts, like that's kind of how I got into it in a way. Yeah, like, because when you watch all these like, superhero movies and stuff, like they're fighters, and like, some of these guys, they do not only do martial arts, but they, project energy and do really wild stuff like, move objects with their mind stuff. And I was just wondering, like, hey, is there something like this out there? When I started, searching on Google, I found some various interesting characters online. And, I just thought like, hey, not only do I want to just do regular martial arts, I want to like take it to the next level, so to speak. So that's kind of how I got into this. Yeah.
No, and it's great. I mean, we all feel like that. Like, I mean, I love superheroes. I think a lot of us do, you know. I mean, from growing up watching the X-Men, watching the Marvel universe, the DC. I'm a big Batman fan, even though he's not a super, hero in that
I love
sense. But
Batman too.
yeah, see, I'm a Batman guy too. So like, you know, we all dream. I think mostly I would say like young boys. We all dream to like, when we see these guys, we're like, man, can I do that? Can I be that? And I think a lot of us even start off like even during Halloween, dressing up, and trying to, mimic these idols that we see as we're growing up, But a lot of people like yourself take it to the next level, like you said, and you really go and do your research and say, you know what? I understand the fiction. I'm not crazy and stuff, but is there a chance that I could achieve some of these abilities? And I've seen a lot of, I mean, you've probably seen a lot of people on TV, real life people that have actually been able to do these things, right? Is there any like, is there any person that you can recall that you saw on TV? I guess that's a real person that has inspired you to follow some of these energetic paths.
Yeah, yeah, tons of people. I mean, obviously, like, my boy Chris Fazio, big inspiration for me. You just interviewed him, I know, last week or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know Trevor Seven or not, but Trevor Seven's huge inspiration to me. Alexander Kukolnik, I don't know if you know him or not. He's a guy who can like move people with energy and stuff. You can interview him if you want. I can hook you up
Wow.
with him. Yeah,
They're
Alexander
uh,
Kukolnik.
they're like a master of energy, or these are just also average guys that have put in the work to hone this ability.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody has to put in the work. I mean, maybe maybe there's some exceptions. Like some people, like my boy Norman. He's a good friend of me, and Chris as well. Like you can interview maybe him if he's down to do it. It's been so long. Maybe he's not down for interviews and stuff like that anymore. But he's like a natural. But he had like crazy near death experiences and stuff like that. So like he unlocked abilities in like a weird way, and he still, as far as I know, still has medical conditions and stuff. But yeah, like, just to finish the question, yeah, Trevor Seven, Alexander Kokolnik, Michael Monk, Michael Grove, the man, like my boy Dallas Ford. I mean, just
There's
list,
people out there then, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
list goes on, so yeah.
Okay. And again, I ask you that question, Ken, because like if you're the first person, let's say anybody in my audience that's hearing this, if you're the first person that they are hearing that can do these things, they're probably asking the same question. Are there other people? So that's why I asked the
Yeah.
question, and things like that. So I appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk about one of your abilities. What's one of your abilities? Well, first of all, yeah, let's answer that question. What's one of your abilities that you can do, and how did you hone this ability? Or what are you doing to keep it alive, keep it going, growing it?
Yeah, so I would say this. My abilities aren't very high level compared to guys like Fazio. Like Fazio can do electrokinesis
Mm,
instantly. Like he could do it like live in camera, right now, like
yeah.
on here. I can't do that. Like I have to really, 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 really like meditate. and do some chi exercises for like hours before I can do these things. So I'm not very high level at this, but like what I can do, like, it's what's called a psi wheel. Maybe I can
The side wheels. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I've heard of those.
something like this. Like I can like
Yeah.
in a glass container and spin it around. Like that's something I can do if I like
Ugh.
meditate like 2-3 hours and stuff. I could do that, but like you know, like, just on air like right off the bat. No,
Sure.
I mean maybe I could, but it's if I don't meditate and stuff, it's gonna really give me bad side effects and stuff like that, and bad headaches, heart problems, all this kind of stuff. So I'd rather not do it.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, it's one thing more than anybody else can do. Cause I'm totally into telekinesis. I'm into anything pretty much that's supernatural. Okay. Telepathy, clairvoyancy, remote viewing, astral project. Like I'm into all of that stuff. And this is one of the reasons why I also have this podcast because I want to, try to meet people that have actually put in the work, or even like yourself who are on that path. I know you said that you're not as high level as some of the other ones, but you're higher than the average guy. You know what I mean?
There's guys that are just so good, that just blows me away. And
I wonder, like, so how many how many hours in a week do you think that you like truly put in when it comes to like meditation to charge up, so to speak, to be able to do these things?
yeah, so I used to meditate like at least an hour a day, but some days I would meditate like all day, literally all day. And some
Wow,
days
that
I would meditate like, like 3 hours a day or something like that. But lately, since I joined this new school, I'm doing like a very, very special type of training. I can't really quite reveal the technique and stuff like that. But yeah, right now I train about like, about an hour. But they're like very specialized techniques. But like in general, I mean, like, I from my experience, if you're meditating like about an hour a day and if you're eating a really clean diet and stuff, like something like the Psy wheel, that I showed you, I mean, you should be able to do it in about 3 months or so, I think. But I think it depends on many factors, like, your how young you are, how fit you are, like, what kind of diet you're eating and stuff like that. All these things matter. Your energy level really matters and stuff. And if you're in a really negative frequency, you can't really affect the psi wheel and stuff. But yeah, in general, meditation, I would say, is the most important thing. It sounds very basic, but that is, the basics is the most important.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ken, I hear that from a lot of people that have different abilities. They all come back to meditation. All right. So I think that's a key when it comes to anything that has to do with energy work. Meditation is the key. So I completely understand where you're coming from on that. A guy or girl who may have the intention to, like, let's say they try to practice on a side wheel, they may have the intention, like, here's the goal, but like you said, there's a lot of different factors. If they're not meditating, if their energy is low, if they're in depression, if they're on a bad diet, all those things can affect that proper energy flow, correct?
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally get that part. You mentioned earlier when we started the podcast that you changed practice. So like you were practicing a certain way and you found out that it wasn't the right path to practice. So now you're doing this new technique. Do you understand kind of what I'm asking here?
Yeah, yeah. So let me explain this a little bit. So the school that I'm attending right now, as I said earlier, it's called the Yin Path. So within Taoism or within the Qigong community, there's like two type. Generally speaking, they classify the energies into two groups: Yin energy and Yang energy and stuff. And we are exclusively, pretty much, well, I wouldn't say exclusively, but we're predominantly going down a water path. And the majority of energy systems, I would say 95 to 90% energy systems out there, maybe probably even more. Like I would say it's up to like 99%. Majority of stuff follows the fire pot path, the yang path. And, this is a very rare school that I'm practicing in, which follows like the water path, the yin path. And I was drawn to that because, like, it's a very, very gentle path. It's a sacred path. It's not all about power and the supernormal abilities that, I mean, we do stuff like telekinesis too, but the supernormal abilities that this school focuses on is predominantly on, like, out of body experiences, which I've never done that before. Or it's like in, yeah, pretty much like an out of body. And, um, I mean, one of the girls is an instructor, is actually affiliated now with Rob Freeman. She does like the Seeing Without Eyes stuff. I don't know if that's exactly what they call it, but
Yeah.
generally what's known as Seeing Without Eyes is yeah, is like some of the stuff that, is more like, water based. It's more like yin based. So that's kind of like the route that I want to go down and stuff. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. The telekinesis stuff honestly is very dangerous. Like, you have to increase your temperature up to like a really, really high amount. Like, I don't know the exact number, but it can be bad for your health. I mean, like, there's people that die doing telekinesis and stuff. In fact, there's several practitioners that die from doing it. So it's very, very dangerous. And so, I mean, even though I'm a practitioner, I always tell people, if you're going to follow this path, you have to really be cautious. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And when you say like they increase their talking about increasing their body temperature,
Yeah. Temperature, heart rate, all this kind of stuff increases. Like, if you want to do telekinesis in a quote unquote yang way, you do have to increase your, body temperature and stuff. And that's how a lot of, like, high level masters end up dying and stuff. And there are some well known masters like Master Jang who died, unfortunately. And I've seen other, practitioners that kind of, you know, got like really bad side effects and stuff, and really ruined their lives doing this stuff. So
yeah,
that's another reason why I don't really want to advocate telekinesis a whole lot. I mean, I don't know if you know Sean McNamara or not, but he spoke about the same kind of problem on my podcast as well, where why he stopped doing telekinesis and why he stopped pursuing the telekinesis type exercises and stuff. And that's another reason why I don't really, like doing this stuff. I don't know what Fazio told you, but
yeah,
I mean, he's incredible. He's got a lot of energy, so he might be able to just blast it, no problem.
yeah,
But in general, like, there's some people who got some seriously bad side effects from it, and, really ruined their health and mental state, and in worst cases died. So yeah,
yeah.
so
Well, I mean, you mentioned Fazio, which was my last guest from the last episode, and he spoke nothing but great things about you. I mean, he says that you're on that path and you're getting there, and he sees it. So this is one of the things that really got me interested in reaching out to you, because saw where he's at, and I understand where he's going. And I understand that you said that you're not there yet. So to see you at where you're at right now, and then as I follow you through your journey, it's very interesting for me, for your fans, for people who are just interested in just seeing, where is this going? Will Ken get to where he wants to go? And I think I asked you this earlier, and I apologize if I'm asking this once again, but the goal is it that you want to have powers just in general, or is this benefiting you in some way in your current existence? Like, why are you on this path?
yeah. As I said earlier, I mean, I'm going to reiterate this again, but
Please.
so, before I want it to be literally, this sounds crazy, but I literally want it to become a Jedi or a superhero.
Same here.
I'm a huge anime nerd and stuff, and, like, I yeah, I wanted to, become like a superhero. That's really, all I wanted to do and stuff. And I got into this path for the wrong reason. And just this path humbled me. Like I said, spoke about the bad side effects and stuff. There's a lot of, bad physical effects that happen to me and stuff. And as I was like, on this journey thinking I'm like, super cool and all this kind of stuff, it just life humbled me and stuff. And like I said, as I matured, I started to ask myself, like, what's really important and stuff. And during some meditations, like, sometimes I get to see visions and things like that. Sometimes one time I feel like I saw something similar to like the Emerald City, like, from like the Wizard of Oz and stuff like that. I've seen some really interesting stuff. And I just thought, I really, really want to just go down like a really sacred path. I want to really just see like, what is this podcast called? Beyond the frequency. Like literally that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to do. Like I'm trying to see beyond the frequency. I want to know what's out there. Like I want to seek truth. I want to seek a deeper connection with source and God and stuff like that. And just more becoming this type of character where I'm humble and like, I'm yeah, like, like I'm not just egoic and stuff like that. That's the, I mean, like this new path that I've undertaken is changing my character as well. And it's very important. Yeah, there's just so many benefits, but yeah, like I just want to reiterate this, like, what I'm trying to ultimately do is like, connect to God and like connect to source and stuff like that, and like really have a blissful experience and have a blissful existence, the remaining time here on earth.
I love that, Ken. Just for record, well said, because I totally get it, and I know a lot of people that are not only following you but are listening to this. They understand that too. You're finding everybody's trying to connect to God, source, whatever they want to call it, and everybody's finding their own path. This is your path, you know. And I respect that. I totally respect that. I'm proud to just hear you talk about it, because even though I don't know you from who you were in the past, because we recently met, I can see that you do feel humbled, that you do feel humbled and that you want to achieve enlightenment. Is this more of a personal path for you, or do you plan on getting to a point where you can teach people how to catch up to you once you get there?
Great question. Honestly, I'm not drawn to be a teacher, but I mean, I may publish like, books or courses and things like that where I talk about my experience and stuff. I'm down to share my case studies. I'm down to share like my results, saying like, hey, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I did X, Y, and Z, and like, these are the results I got and stuff like that. Because if I'm gonna, make a living from doing this type of work, I do have to like monetize it in some way, shape, or form. So I am willing to do that. But I'm known as Energy Apprentice Ken. And I am an apprentice currently right now. And like, I am a student. So, and it's going to take me years for me to officially become a teacher with this new school and stuff. And not that that's my goal anyways, but I am a student. So to answer your question, no, I'm not looking to be a teacher at this point, but I can't predict the future. I mean, like I've changed so much over the years. I mean, I've my perspective on life has changed so radically. I can't give a definitive answer on that, but as of right now, I don't have any intention of becoming a teacher. So
Yeah, and that's, again, like you said, that's to today. We don't know what the future, might call you to do, right?
yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing as well. While you're exploring, you come across new experiences, new callings, and things like that. You meet new people. They One conversation can just change the trajectory of your life completely. I want to ask you. I know. So you say you were born in Japan, correct?
Mhm.
So do you think some of the Japanese old culture and some of their myths and their legends and their stories also play a part to the path that you're on today? Is there any influences from that, you think?
Probably not. Probably not, because I mean, my spiritual path have really, really taken off. Like when I came to America, so I'm not influenced by and I'm kicking myself. Actually, funny story. I actually went to a Buddhist school when I was in Japan, but I wasn't paying attention to like Buddhist class at all. Like I don't remember anything. So I'm kicking myself right now. I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have taken that class a lot seriously. But no, I'm not influenced by the Japanese culture at all. Unfortunately, I'm ashamed
No,
to admit.
it's no, but it's a question. It's a question, because sometimes people want to say, like, okay, what, I understand that you said that you wanted to be a Jedi, and that's cool and everything, but could there have been something else that triggered that path? And there's that question. I was going to ask you if you've done any of those like monk or Buddhist, classes, or you've gone to, have you stayed with a shaman for X amount of weeks or months in training? Have you spent time with any masters or teachers of any of these arts, or have you just been doing pure research on your own?
Yes, I have trained with a particular teacher. Yeah.
Okay, and I understand with the name dropping, you don't have to. I just want to know in general if you've done that, and is there a benefit from training with another human being showing you the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
versus you? Okay,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think it's better to train in person as opposed to online stuff. Yeah, I think in person is definitely better if you can find the right teacher. So yeah, but I
yeah,
mean, but really, honestly, I will say this though. I mean, to find a really, really, really solid teacher, as hard as it is, and
not easy.
to find one in person is yeah, even harder. So like, so yeah, so it's I mean, I mean, there are a lot of great teachers out there, but you know, there are a lot of great teachers out there when it comes to abilities and energy work and stuff like that. But I mean, people that can really, really, really take you to the next level, there's like really like a handful. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There's not so many because I would think like your most purest, the most perfect teacher, I would think he or she is in some mountain, some village, somewhere away from mainstream, right? They're
yeah,
not on your local like Google search, you
no, they're
know,
not. They're not.
so that's interesting for anybody who's interested. That was the other question. Like, how do you find those people? And I think and correct me if I'm wrong, you got to start somewhere. So I guess maybe you start doing Google searches and things like that. But I think once you start getting in front of people, they tell you stories about other people, and then that leads you down to another person, and so on and
Yeah,
so forth, until you find that
yeah,
like the source, the first person. That's a pretty interesting journey for anybody who takes that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. And you said it best. I mean, really, the real high level people that I met are all not public. They're
yeah,
all underground. Guys like me who are public, they look at me like he's a nobody. Like literally, they laugh at guys like me. I've met some people. I deleted one interview, and I interviewed this guy who like, literally held this pose for like 8 hours a day and stuff. And like he cultivated some serious crazy power. And I had to delete the video because he told me to delete it and stuff. And some of the stuff he can do was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. And yeah, like I said, I mean, the real. I've attended many high level energy schools, well, quote unquote high level energy schools from the online perspective, but
sure, sure.
like, but it's the people that occasionally hop on like, Skype calls and stuff like that, that are completely unknown, that are doing the really, really like, impressive stuff. That being said, though, like I mean, you know, I have interviewed so many like quote unquote telekinesis people over the years and stuff. I know like, who the good teachers are and who isn't. And like, like I know like if you want to follow the telekinesis path safely and stuff, I can point people to the right direction, I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Ken, why do you think there are so many followers interested in your path? Like how long have you been doing or how long have you had your channel?
Mhm.
And why do you think so many people are just continuously interested in your
I mean, I don't think a lot of people are interested in my work. I mean, I only have 800 subscribers. That's, so I mean, I don't think a lot of people are interested in my work. And I mean, there's a lot of, doubters and skeptics and stuff. And, as they should be. I mean, nobody believes in this stuff. I mean, I work at a pizza store. Like I said, I'm guessing half the people there don't even know, like, that I do this work. And, I think the ones that do, they kind of just look at me like, oh, he's just some weirdo, like, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I would say that there's not a lot of people that are drawn to this, and totally understandable, like, there's not a lot of interest. Otherwise, I'd be on TV or something, So yeah,
Yeah, I understand. I mean, 800 followers, that's to me, that's something. That's like wow, that's 800 people that are like interested in, seeing what is this guy doing? They're interested. There's
yeah.
something that you're doing that grabs their attention. So on that alone, good job on that. But like regarding like how you say like at work, some folks that don't know that you are interested in this stuff, and the ones that do may look at you kind of with the side eye and everything. It's just because they don't understand. The fact of what you said earlier, you're trying to get connected to source, right? Other people that are still following religion, they're trying to connect to source through that path, And, I mentioned to folks in the past that no bashing on religion, but a lot of people follow religion, but they only know this much of it. They only understand this much of it. They don't really understand the full foundation of it, and they don't really care to. They only want to, they're like, I'm good with the piece that I have, and I'm content with it. And that's okay, but you and everything, and people like yourself that are trying to be enlightened, like I put you in the same category. I mean, you consider yourself like awakened, right?
I mean, I would be sure, sure.
You don't think
I'm
you're
really
awakened?
hard on myself in general.
You are.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure, sure.
Yeah, you are. Look, again, you are an awakened individual. And the reason I say that is because you are not just you're not following a religion per se. I mean, am I right on that statement? You're not following a religion. Are you religious in any kind of way?
This, I don't know how to put. I don't. That's a
How about this? Let me try this.
that's an interesting question.
Okay.
So at my new school, I know this sounds crazy, and like I was where you were as well, but um, you know, my teachers aren't Christians, but like they have, so at my school, like when you get to a high level and stuff like that, you do, when you go to like like an ancient, like Catholic buildings and stuff like that, they apparently encounter like saints and stuff, like spirits of like enlightened masters and things like that. And so they're not religious per se, like like a traditional Christian is, but like like they see Christianity and like other, like mainstream religions from a slightly different point of view, if that
So
makes.
they're spiritual.
Yeah, they're spiritual. Yeah. So they're definitely not religious from a conventional sense. Like,
Sure.
but they, a lot of high level, real high level chi masters and stuff that I know, they have encounters with like Mother Mary and things like that. So like and to my, so and I'm low level, so like I can't really speak from their perspective really, but to my understanding, like you don't necessarily become religious again, but you sort of, have like, you sort of in a way go back to like mainstream, religions again in a way. I don't know how to, I don't know if I'm explaining this well enough.
I
But
understand what you're saying, Ken. I
yeah,
understand, like I tell folks that I believe a lot of people believe that we are humans trying to live a spiritual life, but I think it's the other way around. We're actual spiritual beings first, living having a human experience.
yeah.
We're energy beings first before we're corporeal.
Hmm.
So when you're saying like, we all have our foundation when we're young, we get born regarding the church and whatever religion that you're falling under, we all have that foundation. And then after a while, we break from it. We break from it because something doesn't make sense to us. Something doesn't vibe with us. So we end up doing our own research, and we look to other places and we talk to other people, and then we start getting the ideas like, well, wait, what they just said explains something. It fills a gap, into my question, and then somehow you end up going back to spirituality, but not in the conventional, like you said, in the mainstream sense and everything. So if they're seeing these higher, energy beings, spirits, angels, and things like that, yeah, they're awakened, and if that's the path that you're following, even though you're not there yet, you're still like awakened in the sense that that there's something else other than what you're being told, that this is just what it is, And I like how you mentioned source. You don't call it. Do you call it God with the lowercase g, just for mainstream? So when you're talking to people, they understand what you're talking about. But do you refer to it as, or the creator as, source? I'm just kind of curious on that.
That's a difficult question because I've never really had an encounter with God. Like I never experienced God. So I'm not sure if God is like a single being. I'm not sure if God is a collective consciousness. There's so many theories out there, and I really can't, give a, solid answer. But to my understanding, I think it's a little bit of both, to my understanding. But yeah, like I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question or not, to be honest.
Well, who is qualified? No one's-
Well, I mean, like
yeah.
like I said, like to my understanding, when people like that are really high level, who meditated for like decades and stuff like that, when they're able to like get out of body and stuff, they are encounter quote unquote God, and they have a lot to tell you. But I'm not quite there yet. I never even popped out of my body.
I checked out some of your videos on your channel, and I saw you moving and swaying trees. Talk to me
Okay.
about that.
Yeah, so I know this is going to sound absolutely crazy. I mentioned earlier that I only really have one skill, which is telekinesis, right? The one with the psi wheel. So what if I told you, Caesar, that's the wind is the greatest secret, or what the wind actually really is the biggest kept secret, like in the world, more than like any other conspiracy theory out there. What the wind is needs to be investigated, in my opinion. The wind can be influenced by anybody, regardless of your energy level, regardless of your like energetic, spiritual expertise. The wind can be influenced by anyone. What I demonstrated in the video I sent you, anybody can do that. Anybody can do it. Literally right now. Like anybody can influence the wind.
So talk to some of us that haven't seen the video. I've seen it, and I'll probably drop that particular link on my description, so that way folks can go and check it out. But for those that are listening to this on Spotify or Apple or whatever the case is, and they can't see the video, can you describe to us what that scene was, and what you were doing, what was in your head, what was the goal,
So
things like that?
what I'm doing is called aerokinesis, and it's nothing impressive at all. And I know that sounds crazy to most people.
Stop, Ken.
I know it
That
sounds
is
crazy. I know it sounds
it.
crazy, but literally,
Yeah.
this is the biggest kept secret in the world. Caesar, I want you to do something. Next time when it's a windy day out, I want you to literally go in front of a tree when it's like really, really windy. I want you to go in front of a tree and see if you can influence the branches and stuff with your hands, like like just move your hands like however you want to, and see if the branches are like moving like the same way your hands are moving. Try that. I'm telling you right now, this is the wind is the biggest kept secret in the world, and it's okay. Like I'm not the best to explain this, but let me explain something real quick. So you obviously, you're obviously like a spiritual guy. You understand the concept of, we create reality and stuff like that. And like we're energetic beings. What is the wind? Like the wind is like basically, and I'm not a science guy at all, but like I'm talking so like even like a 5-year-old can understand this. The wind basically has like no weight, right? So the wind has no weight, so it can be, to my understanding, the wind can be influenced very, very easily. So um, like something like, when I do like, telekinesis or something like I showed you with like the style wheel and stuff like that, that thing is like obviously like, hanging, right? So like it's like it can be, and it's like I'm like, moving a little piece of paper, like that's very easy to influence because like, it's it has like, hardly any weight, and it's like also like, just like hanging and stuff like that. So if I, send a little bit of energy to it, it's just gonna move. Am I making sense so far?
No, you are making sense. And Ken, I wanted to tell you this. I was waiting for the podcast to tell you this, but when I saw your video, and again, folks, what Ken was doing was he was outside. I'm not sure where you were, but he was outside, and there were these tall trees above him, and the camera was facing towards like his back and then looking up into these trees. And what he was doing was, as the wind was blowing, he was waving his arms around to pretty much influence the flow of that wind. So if he was flowing, if his hands or his arms were going to the left, the intent was that the trees would sway to the left, to the right, forward and back, whatever the case was. And I saw this video and it was very impressive because the thing is, it's wind and it was flowing. It was you. Let's just put it that way. The trees were dancing with you, and that was very impressive. So what I did, Ken, was I went ahead and did the same thing to my palm tree. I'm here in Florida. I have a palm trees in my yard, and our friend Chris Fazio had mentioned to me that one of the easiest trees to do that with is a palm tree. So I said, perfect. And I waited for, like you said, exactly like you said, I waited for winds to be blowing. It was a windy evening, and I did it. And I tell you what, I don't know if it was just me, and I use the word manifesting. I'm not sure what the right term is in this for this context, but I felt like I was seeing what I was expecting to see because I was seeing the trees sway to the rhythm of my arms. So I was questioning myself, am I doing this? Like actually doing this, or do I think that I'm doing
You
it?
are
You
doing
know, am
it.
I
You are
projecting a
doing
holiday? And that's what I came to that conclusion. To your point, Ken, is that I was doing it, and I wasn't just projecting a holographic image of me doing it, because in order for me to continue to do that, I had to fully believe and embrace that I'm actually doing this. It's not an illusion. It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
delusion and
Can
anything like
I,
that.
okay,
So
this being said, can I share with you a really, really, really cool manifesting, like,
the floor is yours,
yeah.
buddy. Go for
So
it.
this is a thought for you, Caesar. So obviously you got the experience for yourself, um, you know, aerokinesis, influencing the wind, right? So if you want to influence like, you know, the weather and stuff, say you want to like, knock over like a trash can or something, right? You know, like what would you need to be able to do that? You need a lot of wind, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you need
I
a
would think
lot
so.
of wind, right? So yeah, so like, traditional manifestors would say what? Like, oh, you just have to have belief. You just have to have belief, right? But is it the belief that you need, or is it the wind that you need? Think about it for a second. The belief is already there. It's the wind that you
Um,
need, right?
yeah,
So this is the biggest. So you see what
yeah,
I'm
I
saying?
think so.
So this is where like the traditional law of attraction people, like traditional like law of assumption manifesting people are like really lacking. It's the wind that you need. And what if there is no wind? What do you need? You need energy. You need to cultivate energy. So
Mm,
like,
yeah,
people who have a lot of it, this is the biggest missing link in like for the law of attraction, law of assumption people out there. They focus on, oh, it's just a belief, 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 belief. Like we just need the belief. No, you need energy, high levels of it. And if you have no wind out there, what do you need? You need to harness that wind
yeah,
into your body, right?
yeah.
And how do you do that? Breathing
Right.
exercises, meditation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
There you
Exercise,
go.
movements, all this kind of stuff. Electricity, sun gazing, sunbathing. There's so many different things out there. But you see where I'm going with this?
Right.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
the
And
one thing that aerokinesis taught me is like, you know, and like, think about it for a second. This is another thought for you. You know, I mean, you live in Florida, right? So like, you see hurricanes and stuff like that. What does a hurricane remind you of? And
talking about just
that's a lot of wind right there. That's like a manifestation of like wind in the physical form in a way, right? Like I'm trying to explain this like a 5-year-old can
mm,
understand it, right?
mm,
So like a hurricane, a tornado, like what does that remind you of? Doesn't that kind of look like a vortex? It's energy. It's
yeah,
energy,
yeah,
right?
it
It's
does.
energy.
Yeah. Well, it's and it
Then
spins,
it
it
spirals.
spirals like everything in the universe just does the same way
Exactly,
everything
Caesar.
spirals.
So like, so that's exactly what, energy cultivators do. They cultivate energy. And like, this is what a lot of high level people say. Like, when like a lot of high level people that mess with chakras and stuff like that, they say like these energy points, they spiral. So yeah. So yeah, basically that's
It's a beautiful thing because they're like when it comes to you ask what is the wind, right? So let's go back to what are we made out of?
right.
We're atoms. We're atoms stacked together to become, whatever we are, right? So the wind, everything that exists is full of atoms, and based off of the what's called in quantum physics the double slit experiment, um, they're conscious, they're aware, they're alive, and not alive as in the sense of how we consider ourselves alive, but they're conscious. So if we're made out of atoms and the wind is atoms as well, and we're the same thing, then we should be able to communicate, influence it, talk to it. So this is why I do believe that people like yourself and other higher level folks have the ability to influence those atoms, which is in this case wind, to interact with other atoms, whether it be trees, trash cans, large boulders, the psi paper, like it's all atoms. And so I think once we understand that we are atoms and we connect, and like for example, like solid touch, we don't really actually touch anything. Our atoms, the electromagnetic field revolves around our atoms. So whenever we touch something else, we're repelling those atoms from those electric fields. So in a sense, it feels like I'm touching this, but I'm not really touching it. I'm just repelling of it. Because if I wasn't repelling it, then it would just go. I would literally just go through this controller. And for those that are also aware about what is an atom, it's really 99.999999999% of space. It's the wind, the trees, the grass, whatever. We're all connected to it. And people like yourself that put in the work to understand it and then to influence it to everybody else outside of that field will look at it as like, wow, like that's extraordinary. That's superhuman, but it's not, because we all can do it. Just some of us put a little more time into it than others. You know, what's I see a poster back there, like a blue man. Is that the chakras
Yeah, so this is
behind you?
my energy schools poster, basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. I love. You have a lot of the was that the anime dragons? Is that what's going on back there?
Yeah, yeah. There's like dragons there and stuff. Yeah, and there's like more posters and
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm feeling it because, like, you surround yourself with the things that influence you and create,
Yeah.
who you are and everything stuff. So I love that. It's just like how people do some affirmations, or they'll put like a picture of like the house that they want and they put it
Yeah.
on their fridge. We're visual beings too. We need to see it to like really like,
Yeah.
absorb it and stuff. So it's amazing.
There. Okay. Funny story I want to share. So like, I'm living in a house with other roommates and stuff. Like, my landlord was like looking to evict someone, and like, literally like, when he mentioned that, like, like a few seconds later, I turned on my computer and I was watching this TV show, and like, there was like literally like, right in front of my face, like there was another man who was getting evicted inside the TV show and stuff like this. Things like this happens all the time for me, and especially when you get to, I don't want to say my level. That sounds very cocky, but like, when,
No, I'll go with it.
yeah,
I'll go with it when you get to
when
your
you've
level.
become,
Okay.
when you start like, messing with energy and stuff like that, these weird synchronicities happen all the time and stuff. And yeah, it's the world gets pretty wild and stuff. So like, these conspiracies and all this kind of stuff, they're cool, but like sometimes I wonder, like, is it my, like, is it my own internal negativity that's like being manifested into my outer reality, if that makes sense, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man. I mean, I like there's an equation that I heard out there. It goes CT times A square equals N. And what that means is conscious thought multiplied by application equals manifestation. So when you think of something, and we know our thoughts are powerful, especially if if you're on the path for energy work,
Yeah.
our thoughts are powerful. So we gotta be careful with
Yes.
what you think about, and because you're at the other parts of that formula, the application part. The application could just be simply
Yeah.
your intention. So if you think of something and you multiply by the intention of that emotion, whether it be positive or negative, equals
Yeah. Yeah.
manifestation.
And
So
right.
you have
And
to be
sorry to cut you
careful.
off, but this goes back to my original thing that I was saying on this podcast earlier, which was, why am I going down a sacred, blissful path? Is because I have to. Like, as you get, as your energy grows and stuff like that, if you're a negative person, you're going to live in a dark reality, man. Like, if you're a negative person, like, I mean, you're seriously going to seriously have some seriously scary experience. I said seriously like three times just now, but
No, but I get it. I
I'm
get the emphasis.
overemphasizing because it's true. It's really, really, really real. And I've had some really negative experiences physically and mentally, and just, my whole reality shattering and stuff, like, losing jobs and all this kind of stuff. And you don't want to go through all that, and, negative people around you and stuff like that. It's really important to keep your mind in a healthy place. It's really important to stay in love and compassion, all this kind of stuff. I know that doesn't sound cool and sexy and all this kind of stuff. It used to not for me at all, especially as a guy coming from like an athletic background. It's like, all that stuff is all garbage, like screw all that stuff. But I learned it the hard way. It's really important to, like, stay in a calm state of mind, being a loving person and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't sound sexy to a lot of people, but it really is important, man. And if you, if you're a negative person that does energy work, that's going to be bad news.
Yeah. And yeah, for some folks, it doesn't sound, cool and sexy and things like that, but there's a lot of people that resonate with that. I resonate with that. I know that when it comes to, if you're looking at the frequency chart, the lowest frequency is, as we know, is
Mhm.
fear. And the highest frequency is love and compassion, or love, right? So if we're trying to ascend or elevate ourselves, we got to try to be reaching that top. Love more, be more compassionate, sit with gratitude, be humbled, and things like that. And it's not easy because we are third density beings, right? So we do get pissed off at times. If you get cut off in traffic, you have a choice. You have a choice, like those conscious atoms that we are. You have a choice to choose and say, how am I going to react to being cut off? If I start saying, oh, that, mother effer, blah, 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 and everything stuff, then that's your thought, and your intention is coming out to manifest, and it's probably going to be even worse. That person that's cutting off people, with your intention, and everyone else that is giving bad intention to that person, could cause that person to get into an accident, car, or choke, crash with somebody. But if you change your attitude on that and you say, you know what, they cut me off, but I hope they get to where they need to go. because what if that person is driving crazy because their friend is injured and they're trying to go to the ER, you know, or whatever the case is, or they found out bad news, somebody in their family got hurt and stuff. So instead of giving them the negative intentions, just say, hey, look, I hope they get to where they get to and safe without hurting anybody. And now you've just changed the whole situation. So love more and be gratitude and be humbled and continue to do that with everybody. You mentioned you've had these experiences. A lot of people have these negative experiences, and the first thing that they say is what? They say, why me? So when they start doing why me, they start putting themselves in a low frequency, right? So why not just say, okay, why is this happening? And then say, okay, well, it's happening for a reason. Why am I sitting in traffic? What if you're sitting in traffic for 10 minutes, but you needed that 10 minutes because there was a crash ahead, or you could have got, hurt in some way, or someone, whatever the case is, So when something happens to you and it seems negative, don't go straight into why me. Just kind of say, okay, let me just think. It's happening for a reason. Let me try to find the positive about it and let me move on with my day. And that's how you stay in that high frequency. So, wow, that's, it's something powerful to just to consider. Ken, as we wrap up this podcast, I am going to ask you 3 questions that I ask all my guests. And I just want to hear your answer. And there's no perfect answer. It's just your answer. You ready? All right. First question. If you could send a message to humanity that everyone would hear, what would it be?
Well, like I said earlier, definitely just stay positive, be a good person. And if you want to do energy work, do it, but it's not for everybody. That'll be it.
Fair enough. What is one mystery of the universe that you wish you could solve? Think about this one.
I would say,
As
it's so interesting how it all relates to this podcast with everything we talked about. I would say, like, the origins and God and stuff like that. That's the one thing I would like to know, because I haven't personally experienced it. I mean, there's people that claim to have answers, but you don't really know until you can experience it. And so that's something that I'm hoping to experience in the future.
okay, are you, and then just make sure that I understand your response. You're saying that you're hoping one
Basically,
day
go out of
to
body.
have
Yeah,
an
basically go out of
experience.
body, but go
Okay,
out of body like really. I
gotcha.
mean, we're not talking like metaphorically, like literally go out of body and experience astral project.
Astral
Like there's a
projection,
lot of
right?
people who say they can do it. I'm skeptical. Like
Mhm. Right.
I'm talking like the real deal doing it, and really experience like what's out there.
Yeah. And what's interesting about your response, like I said, there's no right or wrong, but what's interesting about your response is that you want to know it for
Hmm.
yourself. You don't want to hear about it. You want to test it out yourself. You want to see it for yourself. You want to experience it for yourself. And that's how we learn. Like it comes to a certain point where we have to stop accepting and absorbing what they tell us and start researching for yourself. Look for your own answers. How many times have, and this is just for the audience here, but how many times have you had a question and you asked another person and they're just like, I don't, I don't know, many times. Sometimes they don't even tell you, I don't know. They lie to you. They tell you what they believe the answer is. But my point is once you get whatever response back from that individual, do you ever go and find the answer for yourself? Do you ever research the answer? Or do you just say, well, somebody didn't know or somebody told me whatever they interpreted it and that's it, and I move on with life? I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about how many times in your life that you've just stopped right there. And I challenge all of you to think about those questions and go back to them and say, you know what, let me look it up myself. Let me do my own research and see what answer you get. If it's the same as the other person, great. If not, there it is. There it is. Ken, and the last question is, beyond all the knowledge and experiences that you've gained, what still leaves you in awe or makes you question everything?
Gosh, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I will. Beyond all the knowledge and experiences that you've gained thus far, what still leaves you in awe or makes you still question everything?
Please me.
Now, while Ken
Honestly,
comes up,
I mean, this whole work itself leaves me on awe sometimes. I mean, sometimes I pinch myself and ask myself, like, am I really like when I was a kid? I never in a million years would have imagined that I would have experienced the stuff that I would have experienced and stuff. I mean, energy work itself, I didn't think was real. So that in and of its, excuse me, that in and of itself leaves me in awe. Really, like it's energy work itself, the work itself. That's
I like it. I like it. Energy, the fact that energy is a thing and not like how we learned about it in school, right? We learn energy a certain way, but the way that you're understanding energy and the infinite possibilities of this study, which and there's so many paths that it can take you, you know, you're thinking you're on this path, and next thing you know, you peek through this door, you're like, oh, let me try this, and you go through that door, and then now you're down a different path, and so on and so forth. Is there an end? Who knows? Who knows? And that's while you are still living in this third density, in this corporeal body, you are living, as some would say, your best life by practicing and putting effort into this energy work. And this is your path. And for those of you that are listening or viewing this, you have a path as well. What is it? Have you found it? Has this conversation triggered a thought for you to start your path? Do you resonate with anything that was said on today's podcast? These are just questions for you to just ponder and think about. If you're on a path, whether it be religious, energy work, spiritual, even if you're just studying like myself, I study ancient knowledge, Egypt, right? I study ancient knowledge, ancient texts, cuneiform tablets, all that good stuff. Those things lead you down a different path as well regarding mystic schools and the arts and the high priests and the teachers. So again, find something that gives you that drive when you wake up in the morning and said, this is the path that I'm leading. This is the path that I'm trying to live. But the goal should be you're trying to level up. Level yourself up. We do, and I don't mean just like, oh, I got a better job. I'm making more money. I dumped my ex-girl, now I got a hotter girl or something, that's third density leveling up. We're talking about energetic leveling up. Because if you don't complete the mission that you're here to do on this third density, and when I say you, I'm talking to your energy self. If your energy self does not complete its mission here, it's going to come back. It's going to come back and not reincarnate. It's going to incarnate back into another vessel until that energy body is fulfilled to then level up. Okay. So if you found a takeaway from what I just said, I want to make sure that you understand that all I'm saying is find your path to level up your energy. If you're living in depression right now, change it. All right. That's a low frequency. Do something. Go work out. Go get a job. Go run. Go volunteer. Do energy work. Do something, but level up. So, with that being said, Ken, I'm going to give you some last words here. Is there anything that you would like to tell the listeners, the viewers, and then also make sure you throw in there about how to find you as well?
Yeah,
Go
so
for
the
it.
way you can find me is on Facebook, Energy Apprentice Ken, and same thing with YouTube, Energy Apprentice Ken. If you just type that in, I should pop up, fairly easily. Last message, like I said, this is pretty much the theme of this podcast. Just you know, stay in a loving vibration. Be a good person. All this kind of basic stuff. It's just you quickly learn that there are very high level techniques out there when it comes to energy work, and I'm experiencing that currently right now. But if you want to level up, if you can stick to the basics, and I mean, really, really, really the foundational stuff like meditation, eating right, working out, staying in like good frequency and stuff like that, that alone can take you to a very, very high level as well. So I encourage all my listeners to just stick to those really basic things. I don't even have to preach any of this stuff. Stick to that, and yeah, like the world's yours. You can live an abundant lifestyle. You can make your dreams come true.
I love it. I love it, Ken. I appreciate that. And listeners, I wanted you guys to just understand and see that, like Ken said in the beginning, he's a regular guy. A lot of you are regular guys and gals out there, but he does understand the importance of raising your vibration, your frequency, and this is what he's doing. He's very humble. I don't see, he's not, out there saying I can move mountains, but his heart, the intention behind it is pure. He wants to move mountains, but the right way. If you understand what that means, he wants to do it the right way. And all of you I know all of you have the right intention, and you're gonna get there. Just keep putting in the work. And with that being said, again, Ken, thank you very much for your time. For those of you that, again, if you missed that, the Apprentice Ken, so look him up, follow him, follow his journey. If you found it interesting that you just heard a regular guy talking about he's trying to do extraordinary things and he's finding his way to get there, and you want to follow his journey, look him up, like it, subscribe it, and then, go. Speaking about that, make sure you like and subscribe this podcast as well. My link tree, it will be below in my description. So catch me on Rumble, Spotify, on YouTube, follow me on Facebook, and pretty soon I will be on Apple as well. So look for me there if you like to. So with that being said, everybody, I continue to encourage you to continue to ask those questions. Understand that there is more than what is known, and continue to push forward beyond the frequency.